Good morning from Tucson, Arizona. The Yarn Closet, this is Laura. Yeah, I didn't do that right. I have brushed my hair today. I'm also Yarn Closet AZ on Instagram. My mom has the Ravelry account, MawgeeKitty, M-A-W-G-E-E, Kitty. So if you want to contact us through either of those, that's great. We also have a blog over on Patreon called The Yarn Closet. So go to patreon.com/TheYarnCloset and follow us for free or support us for as low as $1 a month. And I say that because at the end of March, that's the end of the first quarter, and I will be pulling participants and supporters' names for giveaway gifts. Not everybody wants a sock tube. Totally get that. So if you win and you send me your real person address at TheYarnCloset@yahoo.com and you don't want a sock tube, say so and I will send you some other yarn. Because that's the basis of like why I started this, was to share the joy of the sock tube and to try to get people to understand it's for more than just a sock. Oh, darn it, hold on. Oh, darn it. Blind moment. It's got to be somewhere here in the stack. It's got to be. I'm legally blind. So is my mom. She's going all the way blind. Other people in our families have done that. The rest of the family wasn't always the nicest to them, because it's not like one day and then the next day they tell you, well, there's no difference. You're still going to try to do what you do, sans probably driving. And you adjust as you lose your eyesight, because in most cases it happens slowly. If you want to talk more about that, just message me. We have a lot of people who have low vision or similar stuff to me and my mom, and also people with other illnesses who are housebound, because part of what happens in this is you become housebound. My big outings are going over to school and dropping my daughter off and, chit-chatting for a few minutes, volunteering in the library at school because it's half mile away and I can get there on my mobility cart. Talking to the guys over at CVS, because that's right by school, so I can go there. My mom and dad now live in a 55+ community where my other dad lives. And that's 1.5 miles, almost 2 miles. I'm trying to build up the courage, but there's a really busy street that I have to cross to get there. Yes, I could walk it this time of year because it's not 115. But here's the deal. I live in Tucson. That means even if I walk down the street, I'm seeing coyotes in my neighborhood. And as a blind person, that makes me nervous. We do walk our dogs, but I'm primarily the one who does that, or the kids with me. So it's not as extensive as I'd like. There's also a couple of homeless kind of camps between here and my parents. And I'll tell you, it makes me uncomfortable. I try to be aware of my surroundings, but I don't have the same luxury of that other people do. And since I would go to visit them usually with one of my kids, that's why I would want to be on the mobility cart, because even 8 miles an hour is faster than walking. And it has a horn if there was any kind of issue or animal. So that's a little bit about me. And I guess I've been thinking about doing a separate podcast about this, because we've been getting some more comments and contact from the people like us who have some kind of disability. And they're like, how do you guys do it, because people look at me, I guess, and say, wow. Well, I crocheted and crocheted for years and years, but I predominantly crocheted one stitch. If you got something from me, it was an interesting combination of colors in a non-traditional granny square block. I didn't do the one row color changes. I did different patterns with the color changes. That was predominantly what I crocheted, and single crochet purses for little girls. Some single crochet water bottle holders. And what else? Oh, I came up with a half double crochet pattern for a prayer shawl, or just a shawl that worked both for men and women. Because there are a lot of elderly people in Tucson, and I've been donating those for years and years and years. Like 12. But that was it, people. I mean, granny square sweaters, the occasional other very, very simple pattern that I could memorize very quickly and feel, so it would be more intuitive. And it took me months and months and months to get past anything in knitting. I mean, months. I would say in my first 8 or 9 months. All of it? Were you supposed to?
No, I finished the chapters I was supposed to read.
Okay, perfect.
And one of the antagonists died.
Oh, that's a bummer. Will you take your quiz? And I'm podcasting. Let's be quiet. I deleted yesterday because there was too much parenting on that podcast. We are watching this for knitting inspiration, not parenting.
If you want parenting
It's
inspiration.
spring break for one of our kids.
Yes.
Shush, you're not in this. So anyway, about 8 months, my beginning 8 months, 9 months of knitting, I mean, it took me that long to get a couple of dishcloths, because trying to figure out how to hold it, trying to learn Continental, trying to find the video on YouTube that was more audibly descriptive, or someone that used the right color contrast between background and yarn, figuring out straight needles versus circular. I was terrified of circular. But I found out that it was less stress on my hands in the beginning, so I became accustomed to it pretty quickly. I will do straight needles for small stuff occasionally. Therefore, I also prefer magic loop to DPNs. I knew going into this that I could do it because I could crochet, but I also knew going into it that I might only be able to do this much, this box. And here's the deal. I still see me as a crocheter with a capital C and a knitter with a capital K, even though my box is here for both of them. And I just stuck with it because I knew at the time that I needed it. I needed it. It was the time we were figuring out what was going on with my husband's health, and I needed it. Because crochet, it was so automatic and by feel and so fast. It didn't engage my brain enough to get me out of that current situation. That was, I mean, we're about 3 years in, and only now are we kind of we're accustomed to it. We're not as hugely stressed by his physical changes, his diagnosis. He was diagnosed with a actually 2 terminal lung diseases. About 3 years into our marriage, when we had a 2-year-old. So we're coming up on our 6th anniversary. And that was also why I started this, is to try to make some other connections and focus on something else. So I was motivated, but I knew I was motivated for this box. I knew that it would take a long time to jump out of that box. And for the first, woohoo, way to go. Can you do some,
I'm tired.
Yes, so will you do some writing today, and that's about it?
Yes.
Thank you.
But can I just say?
You can say hello.
Can I just sit there in the video?
No. Go.
Please.
No.
Can I just say hello?
You can say hello. You don't do
Hi,
knitting.
TheYarnCloset fans.
I love
I
you.
love my mom.
I love you too.
Oh yes, one other thing. Please make sure to subscribe, because all your subscribes will
And likes.
likes too. She's getting the hang of this.
All right. Go do a little writing and then whatever for today. Thank you for doing so much.
You're
So
welcome.
quickly. Okay, out of here.
You bet.
I'll call you when it's lunchtime.
Make sure to also hit notifications so you can see our videos when they're released 30 minutes before.
I had no idea about that. Very cool. Can you go to the stove and hit the clear button?
Yeah.
It's the button in the bottom right-hand corner.
Bottom right hand. Got it.
Okay. My kids, they're great. So anyway, I knew I was in this small box, and in that first year, I mean, it took me about 8 months before I did a couple of dishcloths that I wasn't even happy with, and a small shawl that was way off, but I used a yarn that kind of masked that. And I gave it to someone, and she still loved it. And then in that remainder of the first year, it was just a couple of shawls. And trying to figure out the difference between crochet and knitting patterns. Could I do it? Well, not so much. Not so much. So this is my thing. It's just stick with it. Don't get overly frustrated that you give up. But also, you have to know where your motivation is, what you might need to help you. Like, I tried a variety of different needles. I went to thrift stores to buy different needles, so I wasn't investing a ton until I knew what was going to work for me. And the same with yarn. And I still buy yarn only on sale in most instances, or very affordable stuff. But I also tried to spin in the last year or so. And I put a valiant effort in it. I got 2 different spinners. I got the electric one, so there was less that I had to do. And Connor, please do not go in your room and do that, please. You will be too tempted to talk throughout my podcast.
Right? And I'll
Remember?
shut the door.
Good choices.
Is this becoming parenting?
Yes, it is.
So you might want to pause it.
So, I tried the spinning, and I wasn't going to get, I knew in the spinning I'd probably stay in a small box, but I still wasn't going to get what I wanted. So I let go of that relatively quickly. I think I was in that little window for about 6 months. Also, punch needle. I tried that. You'd think that I could have got that. That would be so easy. It really wasn't. And those needles are sharp. So it wasn't. It's okay to know when to give up, and when not to, and when to ask for help. I found my local yarn shop, and I went, I would say, a dozen times in the early year, that first year, and that really helped a lot. That's a luxury that I don't really have on a regular basis, because I also have a 4-year-old. We have a 12-year-old and a 4-year-old at home right now. She'll turn 5 in April. We also have a 25-year-old. He lives on his own. So if you go over to Instagram, YarnCloset AZ, you will see a post today that I put up 3 things about me. And it's one of the only pictures that I could find of myself. Isn't that true for a lot of moms? So anyway, that's my little bit of inspiration. You know, you got to know yourself, and when you're disabled, you have to make new limits and become comfortable with those new limits. I wanted desperately to be a carpenter when I grew up, but realized at that stage of the game when I was still driving a car at 18 that it was not a good idea that I go into carpentry, that those kind of tools, power tools, were not going to be my thing. But I still, have my interests. And it can be very, very frustrating, and I know that. And it's very hard for us to find support. My mom gets to go to, I think, 4 groups a month for various low vision things, blindness things. So she gets to find some support over there. And you know what? The other thing is, try to reach out to other people. And it's hard because I talk to people every day at school and other moms, but I don't get included in things because somehow they think I'm a different mom, that I do it so vastly differently, or people think that I don't do anything at all at home. And it's kind of the opposite. I do most of the home stuff. I do most of the financial stuff. I do most of the child rearing stuff and the animal stuff. Like the cat that had to go to the emergency ER the other day. My daughter called us into her bedroom. We ran in there, and she couldn't shut her mouth. And we thought, oh no, she's 16. Did she break her jaw on something? Did she fall? And then I thought, I think that's a tooth, because she's got bad teeth. Kitty and Ed adopted her a year ago. We're advised not to do a dental, and we totally get it at that age. And then I adopted her about 6 weeks ago when they moved, because I didn't want to accidentally let her out. And it has just been fabulous. We love it. She's a doll. And so it was really crazy. And so I'm trying to hold her, and I'm like, husband, you were a paramedic. Just hold the cat or do this. He's like, I don't do animals. Because I was pretty sure it was a tooth, because I dealt with that with young dogs before, that like one tooth hadn't quite fallen out when the other one was halfway in, and then all of a sudden you've got a hanger. And a lot of times if you just can swipe through their mouth, it'll come out. But we took her to the ER vet, which I'm glad we did, because she got some pain meds, she got some long-acting antibiotic. They took it out, they made sure there were no broken pieces in there. They flushed the bit of infection. I think it was kind of a buildup of maybe an abscess. And the doctor said it had a crack in it, so that makes sense. And she's doing so great. I'm sure the antibiotics are helping at her age. You could tell that the pain meds were kind of nice for a couple days. And she's eating so much better. So it's a godsend, really. So those are most of the shenanigans. I mean, I am not the mom who thinks, yay, spring break. I'm the mom that goes, oh no, how do I deal with the age differences, and how do I deal with the fact that I just can't go out with them and do what I want? Luckily, my daughter's now at the age where she can shadow my husband when he does stuff. Like today, he's spreading some, thanks Magnus, he's very noisy, some seed in our backyard. We have grass. But we only have grass part of the year, and we're trying to transition into a full year long grass cycle. So she's entertained by just being his little shadow. And I'm still homeschooling my son in the mornings. And he's doing pretty good. He's on the spectrum. And so sometimes there's just a lot to balance. That's why I knit. That's why I crochet. Because I need that that yoga for the brain. I need that Zen moment. And it's been hard. My dad had some health scares recently, and that just took me off my mojo. But in February, it was Fix It, Finish It February, and I had my big list of 14 items. Well, I got through a number of them. Oh, yay, it is here. I'm trying to be organized, people. And then I let go of a lot of them. I let them go. So that's what I did with most of the rest of the list. I just let them go, which means some of them I unraveled, and some of them I just tossed in a large project bag and thought, you know, someday maybe I'll revisit it and finish it, or I'll just unravel it at some point. But I knew right now I'd lost the mojo to do that. So I'm cast on, got a feel for the right thing. I cast on this hat out of, have you seen that mani-pedi yarn? It's fingering weight. And they say you can do a pair of fingerless gloves or a pair of small socks, 50-gram skeins. People, I don't like it. I don't like it. It doesn't feel as nice to work with. It does wash up okay. And it is fingering, proper fingering that I can put through my sock machine. But I just don't like it. But I had a skein and I thought it was more red than it's turning out to be. And it just, you know, this is not the hat that I wanted, so I'm gonna be finishing this pretty quickly. And then it's gonna be kid size, and I will use the remainder for like waist yarn. That's at the beginning or the end of a sock tube waist yarn. And I reuse this time and time and time again. And then I have this cool little half circle thing that I keep all my ends in and use for stuffing for other things. So this is a pair of, that needs to be snipped off better, sock tubes that I made for myself for fingerless gloves. So I folded the brim, cuff, it's called a hung hem, and then I'll either add a different color on or I'll put my needles in back here and just knit a little waves. And I'm thinking about making them just wrist warmers and, or wrist warmers with just a hole, not like actual knitted thumb space. Because then you get, in my opinion, you get a little bit more wear out of them. It's just crazy living here. It's been a really cold winter, and I've loved it because I'm from Minnesota. But you can need 3 outfits a day because you can have hot in the middle, really cold, really cold. Our house is slump block. It's freezing cold. That's why we have the fun little, that thing back there is it's an electric fireplace that also heats. And the heat comes from the top, not the bottom. If you buy one, you want the one that comes from the top. They're safer. And this thing is a lighted magnifier that sits, that I can use to see stuff. And occasionally might be able to use without my glasses. I traded with my mom the bigger page size one that I got that had double the magnification because she needs more right now. So anyway, I let go most of the stuff on the list. When I had some spare time, I did some cranking to just feel the, but my kids also don't like the noise. My son will sometimes like the noise during school, but not in the evening. My daughter doesn't like it in the evening. She says it's too loud. I love it. I did manage to finish a small 1x1 rib on Margaret's pair. And this is where the thumb will go, and I will put the thumb in the gold. She is sending these to her sister in France. Can you believe a pair of my things are going to France? So I've been doing that. I love this hat from Whimsy Stitches on Etsy. First of all, I love this thing. That's where you clip the other handle. Although I don't use the other handle most of the time, I just use this. It's very secure. And then I clip my keys to this. I love when you can see through a bag. And his bag prices were pretty good, and he had a variety of sizes. Someone else that has a great size bag and a great price for a see-through bag is Maritime Family Fibers. $12, $15, I mean, reasonable, and it is a good size. Sometimes that's my go purse, where I stick this in it and other stuff. I mean, I can fit my folded up cane in it, this, my magnetically diffusing wallet thing. So check those out. And then I finished, my mom gave me back this tube, because remember, Kitty wanted all the scarves. So I made her a variety of size double thick scarves. This one was 48 stitches wide. She didn't like it. So I just split it up, and don't get confused. One end is stretchy. This is smooshy from the Tucson Dream in Color. This is a Cloudborn gold, and it doesn't have enough of a twist to it. It's too splitty. I don't love it. But one end is more stretchy, and one end is a little bit tighter. And I'm giving these to some girls I know who are actual ballet people, because they wanted longer. And I think this will still fit the smaller girl. Now, it can fit on my leg too. I just have to have this down by my ankle. And it stretches out a little more than I'd want. But then I also have this little chunk left over that I'll make some fingerless gloves for myself. And this brown tube was on my list to finish in February, and I just didn't. I'm gonna make a pair of double thick slippers. So you take, can you see the seam here and here? You take your yarn tube, and you figure out the length of your foot, you fold it, and you seam from the back heel, you seam through both layers, and like I crochet, some people sew them, all the way down the length of your foot. Then what I do is I take the needle and I stitch through one side, all the stitches, pull it tight, stitch through the other side, gather it tight. Then I stitch over those two gathered seams. This is one of my early projects. I mean, you can do it better than me, people. You can see, let's be honest. I think I needed to make these a little bit longer so they didn't put so much tension here. And then you, like I crocheted or you sew to the point that you want. And the best thing is, this is a double thick tube, so all your ends can just hide in there. And it lasts much longer because I wear socks almost all the time, because I'm home almost all the time. So I'm gonna make myself a pair of those. And I cranked up a couple more tubes to make a couple more pairs. Fun fact, on a circular sock machine. I love it! Same damn yarn, slightly less tension, because this was a 250 grams got put together, and I decided not to finish that project. So we were trying to pull them apart. So I was actually cranking one tube and then cranking this onto my cake maker, my, yarn winder. And so then when I made this tube, there was slightly less tension going into the machine, and there was really no way for me to mimic it. I tried. So I didn't get the same kind of striping I got this goofy pooling. But they're just for me, and they're just slippers, so who cares?
Mom,
Hey.
I want you to check the writing
Okay.
to see if I did it too much.
No, that's absolutely fine. That's good. Thank you. Go now, please.
Wait.
Lovely. You never do too much. Doing extra is always great. Remember what Grandpa Wayne says, never give up.
Since it was something big that's going on,
Yes.
I wanted to give it more, you know.
Yes. I think that's wonderful.
I wanted to put it in gold.
I love you. Thank you. Parenting is crazy. Neurotypical, neuro-non-typical, millennial. I just feel like a spinning top most of the time. So then my big thing that I wanted to do last month, but I couldn't because I had this no cast on business because I was trying to wrap up everything else, is that I really wanted to do a new sweater. And I had done this tiny swatch, because swatches lie. So I do the knots, okay? So I know that this side's knotted, and then this side. And I'd done this swatch, and I just kind of hung out with it for a while, and it's definitely good to go. Then I found the Willard by Alicia Plummer, and it was on sale, so I got it. And I'm actually going to try to follow the pattern, except short sleeve, not the big tall collar with the I-cord, just a rolled collar. Because I have two skeins that I bought last November during Amy's from Stranded Dye Works, her birthday deal. Superwash Merino, sport weight. What's the color again? Favorite ice cream? There's a woman at school who likes green, and so if this turns out to be good enough, I might give it to her. Because I think that it's going to be not too see-through, t-shirty enough, you know what I mean? Part of the problem is the 5mm actually meets the gauge of the pattern, okay? And I was all prepared to have a different gauge because the pattern is written in worsted. But I got the right gauge, so I'm gonna go with it. I kind of like this fabric better with the 4, but I'm gonna try it because you don't know until you try it. I don't know if this is gonna be too see-through. And I have a hard time telling see-through, so I just have to figure it out. And a lot of other people have a much greater comfort level with wearing things that are semi-see-through, from t-shirts to like a yarn t-shirt, which is what I think this will basically be. And I'm hoping that I pick the right size, that that's the way it'll fit. So I'm in the process. Today, I'm hoping to get enough time to cast this on. And then throughout the rest of this week, my plan is to finish the smaller sleeve on here. This one's smaller by 12 stitches. And then see if that's enough. And if it is, hopefully I only have to rip up back this sleeve. And then steek this and be done with this. And my goal is to film the steeking, but I don't know if that'll happen this week. It might happen next week. I don't know. And that was Peace Fleece from a discontinued colorway. And that was at a more see-through gauge, but it's in a lighter but heavier, warmer. So I think that that's something I'll wear quite a bit during the cold evenings and stuff, because it's a little scratchy now, but it washes up really nice. I did that with the swatch, the line gauge swatch. I don't knit long enough and enough in one sitting that I am super that my gauge is super continuous. I mean, my gauge up here can be a little bit different than down here in the stockinette. I think I do better when I knit things flat and seam, and I tend to crochet seam things, but I'm terrified of doing that with the lighter fingering weight yarn. Isn't that stupid? And I would prefer to just do the round of stockinette. So the Willard is actually a top-down raglan with some neat textural detail in garter stitch and this tall collar that's got an I-cord in it that you can tighten. I'm not doing that part. And it comes with directions for short sleeve or long sleeve and different numbers for your yarn. So I'm really gonna, and it's written in a way that I think I can follow this one. So I'm gonna do it. I have followed one other pattern to the T, but somehow with my gauge swatch and everything, the sizing didn't turn out the way I was expecting. So that's my scary bit. If I don't have enough yarn, this is the yarn. It's a Millville. You can get that on the website, the Sock Yarn website, and it's sport to DK weight. Number-wise, it's very similar to this. There's just some nylon in it, so it has a different feel. But if I don't quite have enough, that's probably going to do, I'm going to probably do a little bit of detailing around the cuffs to do the cuffs in that. I don't know. We'll see. So those are the things that have jumped out at me after I did all that kind of focus on clearing out the cobwebs. And I think that's a really good thing to do. I try a couple times a year to just pull things together. Like in December, I try not to cast on new stuff. I try to just finish things that I've started and bags that I've got going. And then in February, I really dig into the ones that I've put away and try to do that. But I'm not perfect either. I mean, I'm terrified. I should do some flat panel fingering weight sweaters and just get over it. Because what I want to wear is a bunch of yarn fingering weight t-shirts. That is what I want to wear in my life. Let's share some motivation in the comments below and look with your heart first. Thanks for chatting, guys. I love it. And I love the women I have met through here. And I thought I met a guy, but it turned out it was a woman named Kevin. I did meet one guy in the knitting realm on Instagram, Dylan, and he's fabulous. And so thank you very much. Look with your heart first.